Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, strange disease kills 4 in Kaduna, 10 others isolated. Benue residents stay at home due to high fuel cost. NAV airstrikes kill 22 bandits in Katsina forest. On the foreign scene, shops, schools reopen despite protest call as Kenya's President Ruto says opposition using violence to sabotage country's economy. Hello and welcome to the News Hour on Trust TV. I am Ayuba Ila. Thanks for joining. And now the news in details. At least 4 people have died and over 10 others admitted at Sir Patrick Yakoa Memorial Hospital, Kafanchan, following an outbreak of an unknown disease in Kafanchan area of Jama local government area of Kaduna State. Confirming the incident, the secretary of the hospital, Ezra Joshua, said that the hospital has taken the samples to Kaduna to confirm the type of the disease as well as its possible treatment. Reports say all the nursery and primary schools in Kafanchan were locked down by the school's authorities, who have sent their pupils back home to avoid a spread of the disease that was reported on Wednesday. Joshua, who warned parents to stop referring their children to native doctors, urged them to quickly rush to the nearest hospital if they notice any symptom of the disease. Now, due to the further increase in the pump price of fuel to 617 naira, most residents of Makurdi have begun to observe a voluntary stay at home. The vehicular traffic usually witnessed on weekdays is gradually phasing out as residents grapple with the soaring transport fares. Jimmy Azande reports.
According to the Makurdi residents, the subsidy removal crisis has exacerbated an already troubling year.
Speaking for myself, I am into buying and selling, so it is affecting the cost of goods in terms of way bill and transportation. So there is hike in fuel price, which is affecting the cost of bringing down these goods from where we buy them down to this region. Some people have to transport down here also to get 1 or 2 things. So the same way I'm complaining, they are also complaining because it's affecting the cost of items we are selling by 50 or 100 naira or so. So it depends.
Many whose movements are connected with school runs have adjusted their outings to reflect the hike in the petrol prices.
How the traffic in the early hours of the day was absent for today. I saw the quietness on the roads. Everyone was quiet, even in school. There was no traffic at the entrance. So then I said to my friend, is it because most of the students are done with exams, their parents are not bringing them to school? And then it just occurred to me that, maybe the effect of the fuel hike is causing, because since there's no studies and no exams, then a rational thinking human being will just decide that let the children stay at home since there's nothing much to do at school, rather than incur that cost. In fact, where is the money to even buy the fuel? There's no money.
The people in whose houses we stay, also, it seems they want to, in line with the removal of subsidy, increase their rents and then the whole of that. So the whole situation, in summary, we can say is not easy. It's God has been helping us to cope with it all this while.
In the meantime, the situation is biting harder, and a prompt intervention, if judiciously applied, will make life better for Nigerian masses. Jimmy Azandi, Trust TV News, Makurdi.
In a similar vein, residents of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, have expressed their dissatisfaction with the recent hike in the pump price of fuel since the removal of subsidy on the product. Speaking to Trust TV correspondent, a cross-section of residents lamented how the new pump price will further exacerbate the high cost of living in the country. by inflating the price of goods and services.
For me, 200 is okay. 200, 250 a liter is okay. But 650 is too much. 400 we are complaining, 550 complaining, 650 it's too much. We won't be able to come to work, meet up, because where they pay us 300, and if you don't come to work, how are you going to survive? We don't have any source of living. It's too much. We won't be able to cope.
Because people are suffering. People are crying there and night. No food, no tea, no place. There's no way for people to eat food because of the quarantine. And the second thing, let government also break everything down. Mostly the transport fare, so that the first subsidy that they know that they will break it down for us. As we now I'm going home now. I'm going to work. Coming 150. Now I'm going to university. I'm going to pay double transport. So let it happen so that you break everything down for us.
The salary, how much is the salary of the workers in Nigeria? The minimum wage is how much? As you can see, how much? Even if you are receiving more than 200,000, how much do you go the food stop? Your children, and then you have people surrounding you, all they are expecting from you. So please, the government has to look maybe to increase the minimum wage so that it will assist the workers.
Meanwhile, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN, has urged President Bola Tinubu to strengthen security as a means of attaining food security in the country. This comes days after the federal government declared state of emergency on food security amidst rising cost of living in the country. RIFAN's coordinator in Gombe State, Abubakar Mohammed Bello, said that threat to farmers' safety is a major impediment to food production. Ibrahim Ismail reports.
President Tinubu had declared a state of emergency on food security after Nigerians witnessed soaring food prices and rising cost of living. But stakeholders in the farming industry, such as the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN, painted a different scenario.
Irrigation facilities has to be improved. Input supply has to be given to farmers at the right time. Honestly, these are our major challenges. Input has to be given to farmers at the right time. Irrigation structures at the dams, at the other places, needs to be improved. And security of our farmers is paramount to be able to achieve what we want to achieve.
The RIFAN coordinator also urged the federal government to rejuvenate the Anchor Borrower program of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to encourage more participation of Nigerians in food production.
Anchor Borrower and so many interventions in agriculture, not even Anchor Borrower alone, but Anchor Borrower and other interventions the government used to give in agriculture to improve food security is welcome. We support that. We need that. Because Nigeria, Nigeria, we are the largest in Africa. So not only Anchor Borrower that can solve the problem of food security, so many interventions in agriculture has to be encouraged, has to be supported, so to be able to get sufficient and food security in our country.
In addition to hiking prices of food commodities, Nigerians battle exorbitant price of petrol since the removal of subsidy on the 29th May. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
Now, a cross-section of grains sellers in Adamawa say that they should not be blamed for rising prices of maize and other food items in the state. Residents in Numan have pointed accusing fingers at the traders for the rise in prices of grains. Adamu Imam visits Kasuan Cross in Numan local government area of the state, where traders share their experience.
Maize is commonly used as staple food in most homes in northern Nigeria, but it is getting out of reach of many because its price keeps rising in the markets. Emudu is sold at between 1,200 naira, 900 naira, and 600 naira depending on the size. Maize sellers at Kasuan Cross says patronage has dropped because many are struggling to feed once or twice a day. They, however, said contrary to accusation from certain quarters, they are not responsible for the rising price of maize in the market. We usually eat 3 square meal a day, but now even one is a challenge. Very few are still able to afford the luxury of eating thrice a day, while others have resorted to only breakfast and dinner. We have entered a new level hardship due to the rising cost of food items. Maize and sorghum are 100 naira plus per measure. These are grains that people did not even bother to buy before.
As someone taking care of orphans, I can tell you that things have gone so high in the market that we can no longer keep the place running. Government should rise up and protect those who voted them into office.
The maize sellers says the rising price is also affecting them as they have dependents to feed.
The real thing is that the government is trying more than what one may think. But then, if you look at the happenings around, it's very much fearful. The government is making sure that all are stable, but people are not doing it right.
Think over it so that they'll do something about it. If not, the poor people we are dying because it's more than our power. If we want to go and buy, the goods is so high, and if we want to sell and we cannot sell it, no price because we bought it very high.
Very, very expensive. People coming here to buy from us, they'll all put their blames on us, thinking that we are doing it intentionally, adding money for them, not knowing that it's from the government. So we also pray that the government will hear our cries, they will just accept our plea, help us so that they will reduce the price of things for us.
The traders call on the authorities concerned to come up with price control measures to address the problem. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Numan.
Now, still in Adamawa State, residents are lamenting the hike in the prices of firewood and charcoal following the ban on tree felling by the state government. According to them, a truck of firewood that was recently sold between 50 to 60,000 naira in the state has hit 80,000 naira. Salis Lawan reports.
Since the announcement of a ban on indiscriminate tree felling and banning for charcoal in the state, the business has been badly hit. As a result of the new development, not only the lives of the firewood loggers, charcoal producers and sellers are affected, but the end users as well.
The price of fuel, foodstuff and transport have all gone up, and now charcoal. Government, please have mercy on us, or we have done anything wrong.
Saboda kilomita biyu uku tsakanin da Allah wannan su suke illata jeji.
Both the loggers, the charcoal producers and the buyers are all low-income earners. Government should have provided an alternative before introducing the ban because masses are suffering.
Before the ban on felling trees for firewood and charcoal business, households depended on it due to its affordability. However, the case is no longer the same, as such affordability has vanished into thin air, following a hike in the price of charcoal.
Actually, the business is no longer playing.
We don't cut down live trees even before the ban. However, our major worry is what the government wants us to do. Look at how difficult life is. We have our immediate families as well as relatives who depend on us to feed.
Seriously, our lives as Nigerians are faced with a lot of challenges. They said should not cut down live trees. But even at that, we are not safe. We face series of harassment from security agencies.
The state government said the ban was to avert deforestation that had been found to cause extensive flooding around the state. Meanwhile, stakeholders are calling on the government to subsidize cooking gas or provide an alternative before imposing the ban on the charcoal production, which was largely used by low-income earners. A truck of firewood that was sold between 50 to 60,000 naira and a bag of charcoal, which was 2,500 naira before the ban, has now hit 80,000 naira per truck, while charcoal per bag is between 5,000 to 6,000 naira, depending on the location. Salis Lawan, Trust TV News, Yola.
Now, on security matters, 22 terrorists have been killed by airstrikes launched by the Nigerian Air Force in Katsina State. Among those killed are foot soldiers of terrorist kingpin Abdul Karim Lawal, also known as Abdul Karim Boss. Boss was the alleged mastermind of the killing of a Nigerian police area commander in Dutzema on July 5 last year. He was killed in the Ruga forest in Katsina on August last year. Now, military sources said that the strikes were executed following credible intelligence reports that the terrorists were responsible for several abductions and violent attacks on some communities within Kankara local government area of the state. Now, our Katsina State reporter Abdullahi Yamadi joins us via Zoom for more updates on this. Thank you so much for joining, Abdullahi. All right, we'll get more updates on this later. Now, governors of the 36 states of the Federation have agreed to deploy cash awards to residents of their states. The governors are advising the federal government not to devolve distribution of such remedial measures through the social welfare register developed by the Buhari administration. The governors met on Thursday at the level of the National Economic Council, which was presided over by Vice President Kashim Shettima. Kende Amudu reports.
The hardship being experienced by Nigerians seems to have multiplied since the removal of fuel subsidy. This National Economic Council meeting has agreed that the best way to attain this objective is to deploy cash awards to citizens depending on the capacity of each state. But Anambra State Governor Chukwuma Soludo clarifies that the cash awards will not be distributed through the social welfare register developed under the Buhari administration, which has been found to be lacking in credibility. The governors are also hinting of the possibility of a new minimum wage, which Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun explains will fall under medium and long-term plans. But in the short term, Governor Bala Muhammad of Bauchi State says NEC is backing the release of grains and distribution of fertilizer at various levels. As far as palliatives are concerned, NEC has suggested a 6-month cash award policy for public servants to ease their living and transportation expenses. But in the short term, the council says food items including grains and fertilizers will be distributed by state government at a subsidized rate or at no cost at all, after it has been disbursed by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, and the National Emergency Management Agency. From State House, Abuja, Kehinde Amudu, Trust TV News.
Let's get some perspectives from an economist and public affairs analyst, Dr. Ibrahim Bello from Waziri Umaru Federal Polytechnic, Birnin Kebbi. Thank you so much for joining us on the News Hour, Doctor. Yeah. Okay, Doctor, if you can hear me, what do you make of this planned palliative distribution by the federal government? I know a lot of people have spoken about it. This is coming at a time where we are talking about 133 million Nigerians in dimensional poverty, and you know the presidency has said that the 8,000 naira that was initially to be distributed will be reviewed, and now we are hearing that that register by the former administration should not be used as advocated by the governors.
Now it is very important to understand. That the 8,000 naira that was proposed by the federal government to be given as a palliative to the citizens. Many Nigerians, as we are talking about now, are in serious hardship and serious traumas. Because if you look at it, the rate at which people are buying food items and even some of the necessary things for their living, is getting somehow very hot in the market. So it is necessary for the federal government to look inwards. What is much more important, like the way and manner they remove subsidy, they should look at some of the necessities of life, like maybe food and health, to consider looking at how they can be able to put some, some necessary measures for the citizens to have a self-lending in those areas. Because if you look at it, for instance, in the market where this petroleum and other things have made it very difficult for people to buy goods and services in the market, it is necessary if the federal government should look at the possibility of buying food items and or maybe getting it for them to sell it out to them, so that at least people can have a self-lending there. And also maybe the issue of health. If at all the federal government should look at the possibility of taking care of some of the aspects of particularly expensive drugs in hospitals, people can also be happy. But as far as we are concerned now, the rate of poverty is just increasing, and the rate of unemployment and even inflation are just getting very worse. So it is very, very important for the federal government to look at the possibility of finding way of, instead of paying the money, let them put it into another, one of the necessities of life for the people to have, to rescue them in that aspect.
All right. Well, now the president has also declared a state of emergency on food and water. How far do you see this going in terms of implementation?
You see, that order of the president, Mr. President, is very, very important, because as I'm talking to you now, the measure of rice, it is about 100,500, and the measure of the maize is now about 700 to 800. The measure of millet is about 800 also. So, executing or even enforcing the state of emergency on food is one of the very, very important decisions that Mr. President has taken, and it is very, very apt. What we need is not only taking or enforcing the emergency, but it's most important is the execution to the grassroots, because this is where the problem is. At the grassroots level, at the rural level, where it is very difficult to live in Nigeria because many things are very hot. Like this issue of water you are talking about. If you look at it, the water that most of us are consuming in the rural areas are not good. So if Mr. President, this emergency, should get down to the grassroots level, I'm sure it will be much more important and very useful than just stating the state of emergency at the high level or at the national level, where so many Nigerians will be left in the devastating level of life living.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ibrahim Bello, who is an economist and public affairs analyst from Waziri Umaru Federal Polytechnic, Birnin Kebbi. We appreciate that. You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up shortly, we'll take a look at why street begging worries Sokoto cleric. Details and more after the break.
That's great.
If you are just joining us, this is the news update on Trust TV. Now a recap of our top stories.
For me, I have my 8 years and I think I have enough.
A challenge to serve in line with the oath I have taken today.
Commander of the Board of Directors of the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation and
an end to poverty.
Bauchi State residents are appealing to stakeholders in the oil sector to consider the plight of
killing in Maraban Jama'a Okaru in Plateau State.
I'm confident that I have what it takes to turn Nigeria around.
Of FCT residents on the need to give Gen Z a proper orientation.
When a country organizes a credible election, both the government and the opposition will rest.
You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Now let's take a look at the top stories again. Strange disease kills 4 in Kaduna, 10 others isolated. Benue residents stay at home due to high fuel cost. In other news, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, says at least 2 million children in Nigeria have not been vaccinated against some killer diseases, with Kano State having the highest number of unvaccinated children. Stakeholders are therefore brainstorming to address this challenge in order to prevent avoidable deaths of children in the country going forward. Hamid Oyegbadi sent in this report as presented from our studio.
Immunization is the single most cost-effective and high-impact intervention which protects children against illnesses and deaths caused by vaccine-preventable diseases. The National Immunization Coverage Survey results have shown that over the years, Nigeria has made progress in immunization coverage. However, it is also clear that gaps exist. For instance, 2 million children in the country have not been vaccinated against killer disease. Kano, Katsina, Jigawa have the highest number.
So across the country, we are seeing an increase in children missing their immunization. Last 2 years, it was 1.6 million, and now this year we are seeing the number increase to about 2 million children.
As part of efforts to raise awareness on immunization, UNICEF at a meeting in Kano called on the media to raise awareness on the importance of immunization. UNICEF also called on governments of Kano, Jigawa and Katsina states to take action to address the challenge.
And the unfortunate thing is that it's not that the vaccines were not ready, were not available. The vaccines are available. But how to push the vaccines from the state, Kano, from Kano city, to the local government, to the wards, that has been the problem. How much will it cost?
Even as I'm talking to you right now, our officers at the field, orientation and mobilization officers, are going around every nook and corners of this state to ensure that people are sensitized more to bring out their children and wards for this vaccination.
Meanwhile, myths, disinformation, misinformation and rumors have contributed to poor immunization in the country, exposing children to high risk of illnesses and avoidable deaths.
Former President Muhammadu Buhari attended the Katsina Development Trust Fund's retreat, his first public outing since leaving office on May 29. Abdullahi Amadi reports that the retreat was held in the government house.
Buhari has maintained low profile in his country home in Daura after completing his tenure of office as president in May. During this appearance at the Katsina State Development Fund's retreat, the former president extolled the importance of the funds towards uplifting education, health, agriculture, and other facets of human capital development. The former president was appointed pioneer chairman of Katsina State Development Funds, but he resigned to pursue his ambition of leading the country in 2003, though he did not succeed.
The importance of Gideonia in Katsina State cannot be overstated. Over the years, it has played a vital role in fostering community engagement, enhancing security, and promoting social cohesion. The efforts put forth by Gideonia have undoubtedly contributed to the well-being and development of our beloved state.
This retreat, put together by the Board of Trustees on the Advisory Committee of Gideonia Jihar Katsina, is seen by many residents as a step towards the right direction.
Recognizing the need for continuity and progress, the current Board of Trustees has demonstrated great foresight by organizing this strategic retreat by focusing on sustainability. They have acknowledged the evolving challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
Governor Dikko Umar Rada listed agriculture and poverty reduction among his key priorities. The governor may find this development fund as a veritable tool to reinvigorate some sectors of the state's economy.
It is in a drive to promote developmental activities in the state and to also complement the effort of the government to make life better for the citizens of Katsina State. And I want to assure you, our elders, that we are committed to making Katsina State great, inshallah. And I want to assure you that we'll block all the kitties and make the government very transparent, and will be accountable to the people and the mandate to do.
Public commentators believed that this retreat will go a long way in strengthening interventions through the development fund, especially in the areas of agriculture, health care delivery, water supply, and other community development programs. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Street begging is the act of seeking alms from random people on the street. In Sokoto State Metropolis, the menace of street begging has become so rampant that beggars are found almost in every corner of the metropolis. This has led stakeholders to seek alternative means of livelihood for the beggars, who have become a dent on the image of the metropolis. The report.
This menace has dented the Muslim religion and falsely projected the impression that the religion permits and gives room for begging in Nigeria. Dr. Sani Mehula, a renowned Islamic scholar in Sokoto, says Islam in its entirety has condemned the act of street begging.
Many of Almajiris, the street beggars today, are trying to strengthen their argument with the fact that their root is that of the companions of the Prophet that are called Muhajir, and that's the root word of Almajiri, because the Muhajir, but when Allah talks about Muhajir, he said they do not ask anyone persistently. Allah singled out that particular attribute of them, that they don't ask anyone, and Allah praised them upon that. Also, the Prophet ﷺ in many of his hadiths condemned begging, part of which he said, whoever asks people to accumulate more wealth will have also portion of punishment on the day of judgment.
A popular human rights activist in Sokoto, Ibrahim Tudundoki, says one of the consequences of street begging is that it has now become a fertile ground for recruitment of these young beggars in the streets of Sokoto into banditry and other social misdemeanors.
And take care of all the duties the parents are supposed to give to their children, but they give birth to them and they throw them to the street. And that is why in Sokoto you see now the issue of banditry. The abandoned children become a fertile ground, initiating and recruiting bandits and all other bias in the society. So it's something that is so disturbing.
Dr. Mehula further stressed the need to clear all misunderstanding as well as the stand of Islam and the teaching of Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, on street begging by Muslims.
It's almost consensus of the pious predecessors and the scholars that street begging or whatever form of begging is condemnable, is wrong, and is un-Islamic. Islam encourages us to go for handwork and whatever we can do, smart work, hard work, whatever we can do to earn sustenance. That is why in the Quran, all the prophets and messengers of Allah that were narrated to us, Allah will tell us that this is what they do as a part of sustenance, of looking for sustenance. Also the companions of the prophet, also the pious predecessors, the scholars among them, all of them will have a particular career, a particular place where he looks for sustenance but not begging.
For Ibrahim Tidindoki, government and all the relevant stakeholders in Sokoto State as well as other states in Nigeria, the street begging has become so rampant and should put all hands on deck to bring it to an end and in place penalties for parents that shy away from their responsibilities of proper child upbringing.
And if you look at it, even the case of Usman Buddha, who caused it, the genesis of it, if you dig the genesis of the cause of the crisis, is because of a beggar. He's begging and he responds and says, un-Islamic, and from there it ignites some crisis and conflict, within, and it led to the death of Usman Buddha. So it's disturbing. All stakeholders need to come together and do what's necessary because we know that it's un-Islamic.
Studies have shown that even when these beggars are provided for and are taken away from the street through proper rehabilitation or via legal enforcement, one tends to still encounter them on the street again, as the act has somehow become a lifestyle. Abdurrahman Umar, Trust TV News, Sokoto.
Police in Kano say over 50 suspected armed robbery, kidnap syndicate members and political thugs have been arrested. Police Commissioner Muhammad Gumel addressed journalists after raiding Dala Hill, identified as notorious criminals' hideout in the state. Idris Zubrin reports.
This is the Kano's ancient Dala Hill, once a unique structure from where the foundation of Kano city walls and gate was laid, but now turned to a notorious hideout for suspected thugs and other criminals. Leading police officers on top of the hill, CP Muhammad Gumel assured that all criminals in Kano will no longer have a hiding place.
We are now here at the historical pyramid, widely referred as the ancient Dala Hill, Dus and Dala, which symbolizes economic hub of the city, but unfortunately earlier been hijacked by thugs and turned the place as their hideout and a place of rendezvous, especially for its illicit dealings in drugs, and totally a no-go area for non-members.
According to the command, 7 people out of the 16 thuggery kingpins earlier invited have reported to the command and have since declared their intention to work with the police in fighting crimes across the state.
Today, 20th July 2023 is exactly 2 weeks after such pronouncement. On this note, I wish to inform the good people of the state that the engagement are yielding positive results. So far, a total of 7 out of the 16 of those invited have already reported. By this uncommon gesture, their names are currently in our police repentant register. This implies that henceforth they are not to be arrested by the police of this command or stigmatized by members of the community.
Back at the command, over 50 suspects in connection with various crimes were paraded.
These people invited their victim to pay a certain amount of money. I think specifically 5 million naira, or risk his life, that they are coming after him tonight, that very day. So we are so happy with the way the victim shared his information with the police. We now join our heads and say, let's play along with these daredevil criminals.
While investigation continues into their alleged crimes, the command is also inviting some blacksmiths, suspected to be producing and fabricating weapons to the suspected criminals. Idris Jubrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Meanwhile, families of 20 police officers who paid the supreme price in the line of duty have received cash assistance from the Inspector General of Police. 10 million naira was shared among the 20 families of the gallant police operatives. Abdullahi Amadi reports.
While presenting the checks to the families on behalf of the IGP, the police commissioner in Katsina, Aliu Abubakar Musa, called on them to use the monies given to them in training and educating their children. He said the Inspector General of Police is deeply concerned about the plight of deceased officers' families, hence the intervention.
To the family present here today, please know that we stand with you in this moment of grief. We understand the enormous loss you have experienced as your beloved ones laid down their lives to protect our communities. We come together to honor their memories and to let you know that you are not alone in your journey for healing.
The Katsina Police Boss also assured residents of the command's commitment to the restoration of peace in all the frontline communities across the state. Some of the beneficiaries could not hold back their joy for the IGP's assistance, which, according to them, came at a time it is most needed.
Government are remembering our husband and still our children. In fact, we suffer a lot for our children. It's not easy for a woman to take responsibility of man and also a woman in the family. I want to use this opportunity to give thanks to God and also thanks our leaders for their cares and love. In fact, I am very happy for this opportunity and also the help.
Observers urged all tiers of government as well as the private sector to borrow a leaf from the police authorities by supporting families of those who pass away while in active service. Abdullahi Izmayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Now, on the 22 terrorists killed by airstrikes launched by the Nigerian Air Force in Katsina, we have Abdullahi Yamadi on phone to give us an update on that situation. Thank you so much for joining us on the news, Abdullahi. Hello, Abdullahi.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on the news. Abdullahi, what more can you tell us about these air raids by the Nigerian Air Force in Katsina?
Well, a few minutes before this, before now, in a conversation with the Commander for Operations of the Nigerian Air Force base here in Katsina, Air Commodore Edward Gwamkwet, he told me that there is a sustained onslaught on bandits enclaves, especially in Rugo Forest, where the majority of the terrorists terrorizing communities in Katsina, Zamfara, Sokoto, and Kebbi have been seen. And of course, he said the military and of course other security personnel will not rest until the enemies of the country are defeated. The onslaught on terrorists will continue. It's a daily occurrence, and he assured that residents of the insecurity frontline areas in Katsina, Sokoto, Zamfara, and Kebbi will have a means of life so that they can go back to their farms to ensure food security in Nigeria as a whole. So from what you gathered, military and other security agencies are sustaining this operation, and they assured residents that the operation will continue until the terrorists are defeated completely for peace.
Okay. Are there measures taken by the Nigerian Air Force to ensure accuracy in these operations? Like we've heard in the past, where sometimes we hear about these friendly fires. So what are the measures that are in place to ensure accuracy in this, in carrying out these operations?
Hello, I didn't hear what you said.
I said, are there measures in place, based on your interaction with the spokesman of the Nigerian Air Force, are there measures in place to ensure accuracy in carrying out these operations?
Yes, there is, because he said they are launching these operations, this onslaught based on intelligence reports gathered by the military and other security agencies, both in Katsina, Sokoto, Zamfara, and Kebbi, and even in Abuja. Before carrying out the attacks, they have to have accurate intelligence reports on the areas to launch the attack and the perceived consequences and so on and so forth. So these are some of the measures taken by the military. And from what we have heard from the locals there, I discussed with some of them this evening, where they said they are beginning to see an improved security of lives and property in their community, because they can now go to their farms freely without fear of any attack, especially in areas like Kankara, Sabwa, Faskari, and Tandemi.
Okay. Thank you so much, Abdullahi Amadi, for joining us on the news and for the update.
Thank you so much.
All right. In the meantime, the House of Representatives has called on all security agencies to do more by adopting new strategies to stop daily attacks, kidnapping and killings of people in Batsari, Safana and Musa local government areas of Katsina State. The call followed adoption of a motion of urgent public importance moved by the member representing Safana, Batsari and Musa Federal Constituency, Abubakar Aliyu Ilyasu, at the plenary on Thursday. Presenting the motion, he said that there is pervasive insecurity in his constituency as a result of incessant attacks on communities by bandits, killing, maiming and kidnapping at will. He therefore called on the Inspector General of Police, service chiefs and all other relevant agencies to act fast to curtail the bandits' activities in the affected areas. The House adopted the motion and referred it to the Committee on Security and Intelligence. Now, the Nigerian Senate Thursday has adopted a resolution asking the federal government to direct the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, to suspend issuing tender for the funding of second phase of the National Mass Metering Project, pending review of the process. The resolution followed a motion by Senator Victor Ume on the need to protect local manufacturers from being shortchanged by the procurement criteria of the World Bank in accessing the funds in line with the nation's local content policy. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports.
Senator Victor Ume, who moved the motion, is worried over the World Bank criteria for accessing procurement funds for the first phase of the National Mass Metering Project, saying though millions of dollars were provided by the global lender, it only favors foreign firms and not local manufacturers.
These local meter manufacturers were pre-qualified and found to be competent because they are manufacturing meters locally. Then the funding aspect failed, and government now went for a loan. And when the loan was approved by the World Bank, the criteria for the procurement was skewed in a manner that no local meter manufacturer will get any of the contracts. So I said we cannot allow that to happen in this country.
Making submissions to support the motion, senators picked holes in the criteria set by World Bank, which they say is in conflict with Nigeria's backward integrated and local content policy aimed at supporting indigenous manufacturers to create jobs, and the need for a review or alternative funding sources for the project through African Development Bank, Afrexim Bank or Central Bank Intervention Fund.
Imagine $155 million recycled inside Nigeria through these meter manufacturers. How many jobs they can create?
This Senate and the government of the Republic of Nigeria should do everything humanly possible to support the manufacturing sector in Nigeria, of course including those in power business. only when we are able to do that we may be able to address the challenges of unemployment that we have in this country.
We take loans from China, we take from the World Bank, we take from everywhere, and then they insist that we must use their contractors and their manufacturers. That does not help us to grow.
They have their own investment interest in the money they are giving out by providing policies that we cannot meet. And by so doing, we have been working across the focus. So I strongly support this motion so that Nigeria can have economic freedom in terms of any project being carried out.
The Transmission Company of Nigeria has rolled out procurement for the mass metering project to provide 4 million meters in 2021, in which the World Bank provided $155 million for the project. But due to difficulty to meet criteria for the bidding, local manufacturers were said to have been marginalized. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Time now to take a look at business updates with Chiamaka Nwafo.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, has reported a tax revenue collection of 5.5 trillion naira between January and June of 2023. This represents the highest tax revenue collection ever recorded by the service in any first 6 months of a fiscal year. The 2023-2024 tax revenue outlook was presented by the chairman of FIRS, Mohammed Nami, during a meeting with the National Economic Council of the Presidential Villa in Abuja on Thursday. The report highlighted that the FIRS surpassed its targets for the first half of the year, collecting over 100% of its intended goal of 5.3 trillion naira. A breakdown of the figures revealed that tax revenue from the oil sector stood at 2.03 trillion naira, while non-oil tax collection amounted to 3.76 trillion naira. In an exceptional achievement, the service collected a record 1.65 trillion naira in tax revenues for the month of June 2023, marking the highest tax revenue ever recorded in a single month. The International Monetary Fund has said a 10% appreciation in the dollar linked to global financial market forces decreased economic output in emerging market economies, including Nigeria, by 1.9%. It noted that this decline persisted for 2.5 years. The IMF announced that the US dollar strengthened to a 20-year high in 2022, with major implications for the global economy. According to the IMF, a strong dollar meant that trade and financial channels in emerging market economies like Nigeria were affected. The Washington-based lender noted that US dollar appreciations impacted the current accounts of these countries. It explained that current accounts capture the change in saving investment balances of countries. And finally, the South African Central Bank on Thursday kept its main lending rate unchanged for the first time since late 2021, following 10 consecutive rate hikes. The decision by the South African Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee to keep rates at 8.25% is the first signal that its tightening cycle is nearing an end. Inflation slowed to 5.4% year-on-year in June from 6.3% in May. Data showed on Wednesday, fallen within the central bank's target range of 3% to 6% for the first time since April 2022. At the last meeting in May, the bank had projected a growth of 0.3% in 2023. That forecast has been revised up slightly to 0.4%. Monetary policy is still in restrictive territory, as the SARB only expects inflation to come within targets sustainably in 2025. And that's it on Business News. I am Chiamaka Nwafo.
Now, on the foreign scene, shops and schools in Kenya reopened on Thursday despite a fresh round of opposition protests that have led to deadly clashes and sparked appeals for dialogue to end the crisis. 2 people died on Wednesday, the second of 3 days of demonstrations called this week by veteran opposition leader Raila Odinga, and the authorities said that more than 300 people had been arrested. In the meantime, President William Ruto has vowed to ensure that Kenya's democracy is jealously protected by all Kenyans. Speaking in Isiolo on Thursday, Ruto challenged Kenyans to work with him to build the country by rejecting violence. Ruto was addressing roadshow rallies during his development tour of Isiolo, where he promised to inject 250 million Kenyan shillings for an economic zone and aggregation center.
Every part of Kenya have said we cannot sabotage our economy using violence and destruction of business and destruction of property. Kenya is the only place we have to call home, and we must protect it by all means. We must protect our democracy. We must protect the peace in our country, because it is a collective responsibility of all of us as citizens.
Now, before we wrap up, Adeni Ajishafe brings us sports update.
Nigerian Football Federation has constituted the board of the Nigerian Premier League (NPL) with former chairman of the Interim Management Committee (IMC) Gbenga Elegbeleye as chairman. Elegbeleye, a former deputy chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Youth and Sport, and also former Director General of the National Sports Commission, headed the IMC that brilliantly executed the last NPFL season and the Super Six, drawing high praise from the NFF and stakeholders in general. Other members of the new NPL board are Mohamed Nasiru Seidu, Pabeni Ogun, Daniel Amokachi, Oke Paluku, Suleiman Umar, and Dominic Iofa. Dalami Ibrahim is the secretary and legal advisor, while the chief operating officer is Davidson Owumi. The new NPFL board has a 2-year tenure, same as the board of the Nigerian National League, the Nigerian Women Football League, and the Nationwide League One that were inaugurated recently. And still on football, Women's 2023 World Cup co-host New Zealand Open 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup stunning 1995 world champion Norway after they won for the first time at the global stage. New Zealand women's team, also known as Football Friends, produced a huge upset as Hannah Wilkinson swept home Jackie Hans Cross at Eden Park. This is despite Rhea Paciva's 89-minute miss penalty after a handball by Tuva Hansen failed to dampen the celebrations. Elsewhere, Steph Catley's second half penalty gave World Cup co-host Australia a 1-0 victory over debutants Republic of Ireland in Sydney. The Republic of Ireland frustrated the Matildas in the first half, but their good work was undone when Marisa Sheva pushed Halle Raso and Brazilian referee Edina Alves point to the sport. Ireland came close to getting a famous equalizer, but the hosts held on to start their World Cup campaign with a win. Australia were frustrated by solid Irish defense. And that's sport news. I'm Adeniyi Ajishafe.
That wraps it up for the news hour tonight. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms, talking about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and more. Also watch our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ile. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.